took il 1 MDB, the $4.5 billion heist that bought Hollywood. Somewhere in the world right now, a man is living freely. He has never spent a single night in a prison cell. He has never stood before a judge to answer for what he did. He is wanted by the United States Department of Justice, by Malaysian authorities, by Singaporean regulators, and by the governments of at least 6 other nations. And yet, nobody can find him. His name is Jho Low, and the crime he allegedly committed didn't just steal money from a government fund. It stole from an entire nation's future. It corrupted a prime minister. It financed Hollywood blockbusters. It bought super yachts the size of football fields. It paid for Picasso paintings, Manhattan penthouses, and Las Vegas parties that cost more in a single night than most Malaysians earn in a decade. And it was all done with a brilliance so audacious, so meticulously constructed, that the world's most sophisticated banks didn't just fail to stop it, they helped. To understand how $4.5 billion disappears, you first need to understand the vehicle that made it possible. In 2009, the newly elected Prime Minister of Malaysia, Najib Razak, announced the creation of a sovereign wealth fund. Its name was One Malaysia Development Berhad. Its stated purpose was noble: to drive economic development, attract foreign investment, and transform Malaysia into a high-income nation by 2020. On paper, it was a visionary institution. In practice, it was the largest kleptocracy operation in modern history, and the architect of that operation was not a politician, not a banker, and not a government official. He was a 27-year-old Malaysian student who had recently graduated from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. His real name was Low Taek Jho. The world would come to know him simply as Jho Low. Low did not come from poverty. His family had money, but what he had beyond money was something rarer and more dangerous, an almost supernatural ability to make powerful people feel important. He understood, at a level that most people twice his age never reach, that access is the most valuable currency on earth. At university in America, he befriended the children of Middle Eastern royalty. He cultivated relationships with the sons of prime ministers. He threw parties that were legendary, not just for their excess, but for who attended them. He operated not as a student, but as a connector, a man who knew everyone and could arrange anything. By the time Malaysia's new sovereign wealth fund was being established, Jho Low was positioned exactly where he needed to be: close to power, trusted by power, and invisible to the institutions that were supposed to protect the public from people like him. He had no official title at 1MDB, no formal role, no business card. He was simply, as those who worked with him would later describe, always there. The first theft was almost elegant in its simplicity. MDB needed to raise money. To do that, it needed bonds, financial instruments that investors would purchase in exchange for future returns. To sell those bonds, it needed an investment bank with global reach and an impeccable reputation. It chose Goldman Sachs. Between 2012 and 2013, Goldman Sachs arranged 3 bond offerings for 1MDB, raising a total of $6.5 billion from investors around the world. The fees Goldman charged for this work were extraordinary: approximately $600 million, or roughly 9% of the total raised. Industry standard for this type of transaction was less than 1%. Goldman's own bankers internally questioned the fees. Some raised concerns about the unusual structure of the deals. Those concerns were noted, discussed, and ultimately set aside. The bonds were sold. The money flowed into 1MDB, and then, with a speed and sophistication that regulators would spend years trying to trace, it began to disappear. The mechanism was layers: shell companies in the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, Singapore, and Luxembourg. Accounts opened and closed in hours. Transfers moving through multiple jurisdictions in sequence, each hop making the trail harder to follow. Money flowing in as government funds and emerging on the other side as private wealth, scrubbed clean by the complexity of its own journey. By the time investigators began looking seriously at 1MDB's accounts, approximately $4.5 billion had been siphoned from a fund that was supposed to develop an entire nation. And Jho Low, the man with no official title and no formal role, had orchestrated almost all of it. What happened next is where the story stops being a financial crime and becomes something else entirely. Because Jho Low didn't hide the money, he spent it, loudly, publicly, with a flamboyance so extreme it should have been impossible to ignore. In 2012, he purchased a super yacht called Equanimity for $250 million. The vessel stretched 290 feet, carried a submarine, a helipad, a pool, and a crew of 30. It became his floating palace, sailing between the Mediterranean, the Maldives, and Southeast Asia, with a rotating cast of celebrities, royalty, and global power brokers. In Las Vegas, Jho Low threw parties that became notorious even by that city's extravagant standards. Single nights at clubs where he spent millions of dollars, magnums of champagne stacked floor to ceiling, entertainment budgets that required separate accounting teams to manage. He bought art, a Basquiat painting, works by Van Gogh and Monet, a Picasso purchased at Christie's for nearly $30 million, paid for, investigators later established, with money that had passed through 1MDB accounts. He bought real estate, a penthouse in New York's Park Lane Hotel, properties in Los Angeles, London, and Sydney. And then he did something that no financial criminal had ever done quite so brazenly before. He funded Hollywood. In 2013, a film called The Wolf of Wall Street was released by Paramount Pictures, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Leonardo DiCaprio as Jordan Belfort, a stockbroker who stole hundreds of millions of dollars from his clients in one of Wall Street's most celebrated fraud cases. The film was a massive commercial success. It was nominated for 5 Academy Awards. It made over $400 million at the global box office. It was co-financed with stolen money. Jho Low, through a production company called Red Granite Pictures, run by Najib Razak's stepson Riza Aziz, had channeled 1MDB funds into Hollywood. The Wolf of Wall Street, a film literally about financial fraud, was partially funded by one of the largest financial frauds in human history. The irony was so complete, it seemed almost deliberate. Red Granite didn't stop there. They produced other films. They hosted Oscar parties. They embedded themselves in the highest levels of Hollywood's social infrastructure, using money that belonged to Malaysian school children, Malaysian hospitals, and the Malaysian public pension system to buy access to the most glamorous industry on earth. At the 2014 Academy Awards, Jho Low attended the ceremony. He posed for photographs with celebrities. He celebrated a film about stealing money, funded with stolen money, surrounded by people who had no idea who he really was or where his fortune had come from. Back in Malaysia, the man who had enabled all of this was governing a nation. Prime Minister Najib Razak was not merely aware of what was happening at 1MDB. American investigators would later establish, through thousands of documents and financial records, that he was an active participant in it. Approximately $681 million from accounts linked to 1MDB had been deposited directly into Najib Razak's personal bank account. $681 million into the personal bank account of a sitting head of government. When Malaysian journalists first reported on the deposits in 2015, Najib's initial explanation was that the money was a donation from the Saudi royal family. A gift, he said, in recognition of Malaysia's role in countering extremism in the region. He then claimed most of it had been returned. The explanations changed. The dates shifted. The donors became harder to identify. The amounts being discussed never quite matched the amounts in the actual bank statements. Malaysia's Attorney General closed the investigation. The deputy prime minister who had publicly questioned Najib about 1MDB was fired. The central bank governor who had expressed concerns resigned. For a brief, extraordinary moment, a man with $681 million of stolen public money sitting in his personal bank account managed to remain in power by dismantling, one by one, every institutional mechanism designed to hold him accountable. The machine kept running until it didn't. In 2018, Najib Razak's ruling coalition lost a general election for the first time in Malaysia's history. The new government immediately reopened the 1MDB investigation. What investigators found in Najib's residences shocked even those who had been following the scandal for years. Hundreds of luxury handbags, including 273 Birkin bags worth millions, jewelry, cash in multiple currencies, watches, designer goods, items that painted a picture of consumption so extreme it was difficult to reconcile with the image of a public servant. Najib Razak was arrested, tried, and convicted. In July 2022, Malaysia's federal court upheld his conviction on 7 counts of corruption, money laundering, and criminal breach of trust. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison. He is currently serving that sentence. Goldman Sachs, after years of denials and negotiations, agreed in 2020 to pay approximately $2.9 billion to settle charges with the United States Department of Justice, the Malaysian government, and regulators in multiple jurisdictions. It was one of the largest settlements in the bank's history. The bank acknowledged that a former partner had bribed government officials to secure the bond business. The Equanimity superyacht was seized by Indonesian authorities in 2018, handed over to Malaysia, and eventually auctioned. It sold for $130 million, roughly half what Jho Low had paid for it. The Wolf of Wall Street money was recovered in part through a civil forfeiture action. Red Granite Pictures paid $60 million to settle with the Department of Justice, the Picasso, the Basquiat, the Manhattan Penthouse, the Las Vegas parties. Slowly, painstakingly, asset by asset, investigators began clawing back the pieces of what had been taken. But the man at the center of it all, the 27-year-old with no official title and no formal role, who had orchestrated the theft of $4.5 billion, was nowhere to be found. Jho Low has been a fugitive since 2018. The United States Department of Justice has indicted him on multiple counts of money laundering and conspiracy. Malaysia has issued an arrest warrant. Interpol has issued a red notice, the closest thing to an international arrest warrant that exists. None of it has worked. His precise location is unknown. Investigators believe he has moved between China, Macau, the United Arab Emirates, and other jurisdictions with limited extradition agreements. He has communicated occasionally through lawyers and public statements, maintaining his innocence and describing the charges against him as politically motivated. He has never been extradited, never been arrested, never spent a single night in a cell. In 2026, as Malaysia continues its efforts to recover what remains of the stolen billions, and as new civil cases work their way through courts in multiple countries, Jho Low remains free. The architects of the most sophisticated sovereign wealth theft in modern history have faced very different consequences. The Prime Minister is in prison, the bank paid billions, the fugitive is at large. And the $4.5 billion, even after years of the most aggressive asset recovery operation in Department of Justice history, has not been fully recovered. Some of it is gone, spent on parties that ended years ago, on champagne that was consumed and forgotten, on nights in Las Vegas that left no trace except the memory of people who were paid to be there and have since moved on to other parties, other rooms, other wealthy men with other fortunes of uncertain origin. The 1MDB scandal is not ultimately a story about money. It is a story about what money can purchase when the people who are supposed to be watching look the other way. It purchased a prime minister. It purchased Hollywood access. It purchased years of impunity for a man who stole from schools and hospitals and the retirement savings of ordinary Malaysians to throw parties for celebrities who never knew his money's real address. It purchased for a time the appearance of legitimacy. And that, the purchase of legitimacy, is the most dangerous transaction in the modern financial world. Because once you understand how Jho Low did it, you begin to see the architecture everywhere. In the sovereign wealth funds that move money across borders without oversight. In the banks that ask questions quietly and then set the answers aside. In the shell companies and the offshore accounts and the jurisdictional complexity that turns stolen billions into untraceable private wealth. The system that made 1MDB possible did not disappear when the scandal was exposed. It adapted. It is still operating. And somewhere, in a city that does not ask too many questions, a man who stole $4.5 billion is still free. Money, power, secrets. If this story changed how you see the world, subscribe to FinCora. Every week, we go behind the headlines, past the press releases, and into the invisible rooms where the real decisions